Hi guys, first video on interest. So if you look at the outline for the unit, we're going to go through simple interest and then compound interest. Present value and compound interest are the same thing, kind of, but in reverse. And then we'll mess around with changing conditions. And that's it. So there's not too much to do in this unit. The first bit is simple interest. So it's a bit easier or simpler, if you will, than compound interest. Simple interest is calculated as a percent of the principal on an investment or loan using this formula here. So when we do a simple interest question, all the questions today will be simple interest, but later on, if we do simple interest questions, what you're looking for is the word simple. Okay, later on, if you have the word compound, then it's a compound interest question, but they always have either simple or compound in the question. And if that's the case, you're going to use this equation here, I equals PRT. So I equals PRT is the equation. I is the interest that you get. P is the principal. It's the original amount. So this is in money. This is in money. So interest amount received. Principal is the amount of the original amount of money. So let's say I have 500 bucks and later on I make some money off this and I get some interest, and whatever the interest is, let's say it's 30 bucks. That's the interest. That's the principal. The principal is the original amount. The interest rate is expressed as a decimal and the length of time is expressed in years. Interest rate is always expressed per year. So even if you're borrowing the money for 10 years or 3 years or even 3 months, when we talk about the rate, so if you look at a bank rate amount and it's 5.2%, that's 5.2% per year. And then what happens is you modify by the length of time, and then you figure out the total amount of interest owed or received. Once you get this amount here, you can add it to this amount here to get the total amount, and we call that A. So if you take the principal and add the interest amount to it, you get the total amount. So if I had 500 bucks and I earned $30 interest, what I will do is add those together and get $530 as my A, or my total amount. Okay, again, that's in dollars. Interest rates as a percent. That's how we talk about it, but when we put it into the equation, we need to change it to a decimal. So we did a lot of this early on in the year, and what you do is you take this and you divide it by 100. A lot of you will have a percent button on your calculator. You can just do that here. So if you have 13%, you can just go 13% on the calculator, and then that will divide by 100 or move the decimal over 2 spots to the left. So 1, 2, and if there's a gap, you put a 0 in there. Months and years and all these things have to, or months and weeks have to be changed to years. So one thing that I would have, if we were in a classroom and have this big list of modifiers, we're going to add to it later, but how many months there are in a year? 12. How many weeks there are in a year? 52. How many days are in a year? 365. And we'll get more of those in a bit. So what we're going to do now is calculate interest earned. So this is interest earned with simple interest, okay? And like I said, you're going to have this word simple somewhere. And this is not real life interest. Okay, so if you go to bank, you will not earn it. Simple interest, you will not be charged simple interest. You'll get what we call compound interest, and that's what we'll do next week. But today we'll just do simple interest. So this is money where you borrow, a situation where you borrow some money, or you lend some money, and you charge interest for a certain period of time, but you don't compound it. So what that means is, if I give you 100 bucks and I say, hey, you know what, I'll charge you 10% interest, so give me back 110 bucks after a year. The next year, if you still owe me the 100 bucks, I don't say now you owe me interest on the $110. What I do is I go back and say you owe me only money on the principal. You owe me interest on the $100. So that's not a real life situation in most places. As far as banks go and credit cards go, that's all going to be compound interest, which is a little more complicated. But actually, to tell you the truth, it turns out to be a little easier than this. Anyway, what we're going to do is we're going to calculate simple interest, and to do that, use the equation I equals PRT. So what I do always is I go ahead and I write my equation here, and then, so simple interest is I equals PRT, and then I write I, P, R, and T, and I put equal signs here, and then I just start going through the question and I ask myself, which ones do I know, which ones don't I know, and solve for what's missing. Okay. And if you do that here, you don't know I, okay, because that's what we're trying to find. Simple interest rate is 4.5%. So we change the decimal right here, 0.45. The principal or the amount is $2,000 and the time is 26 weeks. And when you divide that by 52 weeks in a year, you figure out that's half a year. Take those numbers, jam them into this equation, throw this into a calculator, and you get 45 as your interest earned. So the amount of interest earned is $45. And how much is the investment worth? Well, you start with 2,000, you earned 45, and you're at 2,045. Okay. The last thing we're going to do is look at when you're trying to find other things, not interest, but principal, rate, or time. And what we do is we use one of these formula triangles. And I think you've probably used these in science class before. And the way to figure out the formula that you're using, now you'll have these formulas in front of you, but if you didn't have them, okay, so if you had to figure this out, what you do is you cover up what you're looking for, and you can't see me. Well, here, let's do this. Let's go to our creative pet here and get our happy face. And let's say I was looking for P in this case. So you have this triangle here and you cover up what you're looking for, P, and then what's left is I over RT, and that's what you have here. Okay, so that's how you get the principal formula. If it wasn't P I was looking for, but let's say it was R, I cover the R up, and then I have I over PT. Isn't this fun? And watch this. I'm going to shoot this guy across. Can I do this? Oh. See if I can get it to land. Okay. Some good intentions there, but forget it. Let's say I'm looking for T. Cover the T up, I over PR. Okay. And what happens now is we can solve all the equations. So now how much principal is needed, to earn $500 in interest in 2 years invested at 2.5% simple interest. So again, it's a I equals PRT, or sorry, it's a simple interest question. We have I, P, R, and T. So write those down, I, P, R, T, and then you go through here, and one of these will be what you're looking for, and the other three will be known. So when I look through this here, let's stick with red. I want to earn $500, so that's the interest I want to earn in 2 years, so that's my time, and 2.5%, so that's my rate. So what I'm looking for is P, and then I go back and find the equation, which is this one, write it down, sub it in, and get my P. Okay, and then you can see that the rest of the examples are doing the same sort of thing. Here, example 3, a little more difficult because it says I want to grow from 7,000 to 10,000. So when you're looking at what I know, and I also know it's 5 years, so I know that the 5 years is the time. But this might take a little bit of thinking here. What's the simple interest rate to go from 7,000 to 10,000? Well, my principal is what I start off with, so that's my 7,000. Okay, but what I have here is that when I want to find I is how much interest I earned, and if I went from 7,000 to 10,000, that means I earned $3,000 in interest. So I know interest, I know principal, I know time. So I need to find a rate. This is the equation. Go back and look at the triangle, and then you work your way through to find a rate. And the last one, same sort of thing here. You have to figure out what I is with a little subtraction. The principal is here, the rate is known, and then you got to find out the time. Okay, so that's how you do these questions. Those are the simple interest questions. Give these questions a shot. If you have any questions about them, questions about the questions, and through the magic of magic, here are the answers. Okay, so I'll just scroll through them and check your work. That's a $sign in front of the 48, and those are yes, yeses. Okay, that's it. Have a great weekend. It's going to be beautiful. See you.